So I'm with Bruce Pardy and Lisa Bildy from the Law Society of Ontario, and you started, Lisa, I understand, an organization called StopSOP, and SOP standing, of course, for Statement of Principles that the Law Society of Ontario compelled lawyers in Ontario to write. Can you explain the standards of the Statement of Principles and why you're opposed to it?
Right. Well, the Statement of Principles was essentially requiring all lawyers in the province to agree to promote particular values. They were equality, diversity, and inclusion. Promote them not just in their practices, and not just acknowledge that you have a duty to follow human rights laws, which nobody would oppose, but you had to promote these values, not just in your professional life, but also in your personal life, even if you were retired. It was very clearly to us compelled speech, because you were expected to put the statement in place that you were going to abide by these obligations, and as a condition of practicing law.
Right, and I understand from you, Bruce, that the Ryerson Society, the Runnymede Society,
right.
You made a very good argument that, against diversity, inclusion, and equality, saying that you're actually opposed to those three things, but then, of course, you defined your terms.
Right. Now, exactly. So that's the qualification, right? So it depends upon what you mean by the terms. So what the Law Society says that it means by equality, for example, is substantive equality of outcome, and they say so on their own website. So when you are doing your Statement of Principles, you are required to acknowledge your obligation to promote equality of outcome. And if you happen to believe in equality of application or equality of opportunity, then that's not doing what you're being told to do. So it's not just a matter of being in favor of some version of the concept of equality, diversity, and inclusion. You have to agree to the ones that they've given you. So that's what makes this an imposition of an ideology so as to be qualified to practice law.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I would, as a layman, say that is a very political ideology, because they're not all political parties, not all politics in Canada agree with that interpretation of what those words mean. So to actually come out and say that all of the lawyers in Ontario now line up with this political ideology is damaging to the legal system in Ontario. Wouldn't you agree?
In order to have a system that's compliant with the rule of law, you really need independent lawyers. If you don't have that, you really don't have that kind of system. And this is a step down that road to having the beliefs, the values of lawyers controlled by the regulator. And that simply is not on.
Now, I understand that you had a slate of candidates that were recently elected, and every single one of those slate of candidates for the Law Society opposed the Statement of Principles.
Correct.
Can you tell us what comes next?
Okay, well, that was the first step. It was a significant step, actually, because I can just also tell you that it was very challenging to get lawyers to step out of their comfort zone. 98% of lawyers in this province checked the box to say that they'd complied with that regulation. People were fearful, worried about their livelihoods, and so it was a significant effort to get enough people to stand up and say this is wrong, that we built a pushback effort, and then from that it grew into a political movement in effect, and we had enough candidates to oppose the Statement of Principles to make a difference, and we educated the province, all the lawyers in the province, about what was going on, and they came out and forced to vote for us. But that's only the first step. The next step now is, once our candidates go to Convocation, which is the name for the board that governs the Law Society, the challenge will be to get enough votes to actually rescind the Statement of Principles, which is currently a policy of the Law Society. So we have to have a motion brought forward to rescind it.
And the mood amongst your colleagues?
Well, of the slate candidates?
Well, no, of all your colleagues, not just the ones on the slate, because we know what they think.
I'm hearing, as the organizer of StopSOP, I'm hearing from all the lawyers that are absolutely jubilant about this, because they were worried. I've had people say this was an existential thing for them. They could not, in good conscience, check that box. It was so disturbing to them that the Law Society would think that it was appropriate to control lawyers' thoughts. And because of that, they didn't think they could be able to practice law going forward. It was disturbing for people. So I have not been on top of my emails because there are hundreds of them from people saying, thank you so much for having the courage to stand up and do something about this.
Now, Bruce, you actually likened perhaps yourself to a Sir Thomas More.
Oh, I wouldn't go. No. But the Sir Thomas More idea was that in difficult moments, one of the choices you have is to go along even if you don't agree, to betray yourself, so as to save yourself, and that's one thing that Thomas More wouldn't do, and he lost his head. Now, nobody's going to lose their head over this, but they might well have lost their license. And that's an important thing. Whenever you're in a situation where you have to profess a belief in order to secure your livelihood, then that suggests something's not right. And that's the thing that we were trying to fix.
Any further comments?
Well, I think that we've done something very positive for showing people, not just in the legal profession, but in the broader populace, that you can stand up against these things. You just need to find the courage and you need to rally support. But I hope that this provides some encouragement to those facing these kinds of political litmus tests in other areas, that they too can stand up and say, no, this is too much.
Thank you both very much and good
Thanks.
luck.
Thank you very much.